If you're keen to study the ACCA, then this is the right video for you. Hi there, welcome to my channel. My name is Belinda. If you're new here, welcome. This channel is all about beauty, brains, and African sauce. So the whole point of today's video is just to give you some few tips from my own experience studying the ACCA. So I self-study, I don't go for any lectures, I don't go for any lessons. So I'll be sharing some of the tips that has helped me get through the many exams. But before I get to the tips, maybe you may be wondering, what is the ACCA? So that's the Association of Chartered Certified Accountants. I hope I am right. If I'm wrong, I will put the full description at the bottom of this video. If you're keen to basically boost your career, if you're trying to basically climb the ladder and you're looking for qualifications that will help you succeed as a business professional, then this is the right qualification for you. Also, it may be just because you're maybe an entrepreneur and you're just trying to improve your knowledge on how to manage your business, how to run your business, doing your books. You know, sometimes it's good to be self-sufficient. Then you might want to look at the ACCA. So I started the ACCA a long time ago. I started it around my final years of uni. So I studied engineering, nothing close to the ACCA. So I can definitely give a big up to my parents. They're both chartered accountants, and they did encourage me to study the ACCA, because according to them, you shouldn't just have one perspective in the world, which is just technical, because I had a very tech-heavy undergrad degree. They wanted me to also have an understanding for business, an appreciation for business, how businesses work, so that business plus technical, you know, you have the best of both worlds. So I started the ACCA. When I started, it was around 15 papers. I think they're around 14 now. They keep combining some papers, renaming the papers, but it is around 14 papers. So if you haven't done any business related undergraduate degree, you'll probably have to start from scratch like I did. So you do some applied knowledge papers. Those are around the first papers. When I did them, it was F1 to F3, but now they have renamed them a little bit. But it's the same papers, just different name of the paper. And then there is applied skills papers, which is the second level, which was F4 to F9. So all the F papers are like the first papers. Foundation, they don't call them foundation because they're literally other foundation papers as well. But then they are like the first level of the exams. And then once you're done with the 9 papers in the applied knowledge and applied skill levels, there is now strategic professional, which is where I'm at. I'm only remaining with 2 papers to complete this qualification once and for all. So the strategic professional, you do 2 mandatory papers, which is strategic business reporting and strategic business leader. And then you choose 2 optional papers, which will be, I guess, influenced by what you'd like to specialize in, what you do day to day. That can basically inform what optional papers you're going to do. So it takes around 3 to 4 years to do the qualification, the full qualification, if you're going to start from scratch. There's some people who, because of their undergraduate, they're able to get a lot of exemptions. So of course, for those people, it can even take 1 to 2 years. Have I done it for 3 to 4 years? I think I've done it for longer than that. I think I've done it for like 5 years, because it's all self-funded, all self-taught. So I do it at my own pace. When I started off, because the papers were a bit easy at the beginning, the first few papers are quite easy. I was doing 3 years ago. And I remember, I'm sure, Mom, if you're watching this, you wouldn't be proud, but basically, I used to just read, because you only need 50% to pass the paper. I used to read half of the book, and then I would just bet my odds and then see what I'll get. And that worked for me for a few of the papers, which are the first ones. Try that for the more advanced papers and you will fail miserably and terribly. So I wouldn't encourage that at all. So heading on now to the tips that I would give you if you're basically teaching yourself the qualification like I am. So literally, When I'm telling you I'm teaching myself, I mean exactly that. I buy the study text and then I buy the question guide and literally prepare for the exam. So depending on how busy work is, I might be able to get through both. Sometimes I just manage to get through the study text and I just hope I've understood it well enough, and the exam marks will let you know if you've understood it or not. So an example is this one, Advanced Audit and Assurance. So you can see I have the workbook, the practice and revision kit. I would also have the study text as well. So you read and then you get to practice. A big tip that I have is always attempting some questions before you do the exam. I have learned this the hard way. I'm telling you, you can be there reading that study text like it's a storybook and you're feeling that story. And then when the exam comes and you see how the questions are posed, you're like, gosh, is this the same topics that I was revising for? So trust me, try out some questions. You don't need to do, you don't need to be like those guys who do, I don't know, revision for the last 3 weeks. They were just doing questions. Maybe you don't have that luxury. I basically don't have that luxury. I work 9 to 5. I am tired. So you don't need to revise so many questions, but you do need to attempt at least a question from each section. So normally most of these books, they will explain to you how the exam is set up. They'll say, based on how the past few years have been, they always bring this type of question, and then this other type of question, and then they pick the other two from this other section. So at least attempt one question per section. That would at least help you be able to be comfortable to formulate a good answer in the right format, because sometimes you just touch upon the answer and then they actually expected you to explain further, to discuss the answer and then come to a conclusion, and all you did was just mention something. You just stated it theoretically and you didn't actually apply your knowledge to the scenario. So that's a key tip that I have learned the hard way, that you should do. Another tip that I have, you may have noted that this question guide is not for December 2020, which is when I'm going to do this exam. So just because the exam period, like the book that you've bought, states June 2020, doesn't mean that the information it contains is not useful. So what I'm trying to get at is you can save money on your revision material by just buying the month before the exam you're about to do. So you don't need to buy the latest book, because most of the time, not much changes. Honestly, not much changes information-wise between the books. I wouldn't encourage you to buy, like you're in 2020 and you're buying a book for 2018. Definitely not. But at least do one session behind to save money, because there's such a big price difference between books that are literally the latest ones and then the ones right before that exam session. So take it the way phones usually are released. A phone will be released right now, and because of the hype, because it's high in demand, the price is very high, but it doesn't mean the generation behind that is so different to it. It's just a few things that are added on. And in fact, some of the things that are added on, you can find them online. So if it's a tax paper you're doing, you can just find the new rules online, but it doesn't mean that majority of the theory that they're showing in the book is irrelevant. It's probably very relevant. It's just maybe the allowance that they've changed from 10,000 something to 11,000. So is that really worth an extra 30 quid? Maybe not. Another tip that I would suggest if you're self-taught like I am, is finding the study method that works for you. So if you prefer videos, then buy video material. I do well with questions, and basically books that when they're explaining a concept, they have questions literally after each, or examples. So I understand through questions. So actually my preferred learning provider in terms of reading material is Kaplan. Kaplan has taken me through my first paper to literally my most recent exam. This one is the only one that I've bought from BPP. It's not bad, but I genuinely prefer how Kaplan presents the information. And this is not sponsored, this is purely from my experience. I would buy Kaplan any day. Another tip that I have is don't leave things till last minute. Again, this is something I have learned the hard way. Trust me. Hey, you think that you book in advance because you're trying to book to basically get a discount, right? So you get the early bird fee. Then you forget that you have that exam. I have done that. I forget, and then a month before the exam, I'm like, oh my gosh, I actually signed up for an exam. Remember, I'm self-taught, so it's not a case of revising, it's a case of learning for the first time. Can you imagine a month before the exam trying to master material? And I'm technical, so even my day-to-day job is technical, nothing to do with accounting. So you're trying to learn this thing that is not very it doesn't come to you naturally, because engineer, and then you're telling me about debentures and convertible whatever, like, come on. So to me it's theoretical, and then you have to master that and then revise and still do an exam and pass, together with people who the audit firms are paying for them, the exam, they have revision, they have mock tests. So if you want to succeed on your low budget of teaching yourself, you need to literally start way ahead of time. And the thing is, it's not a recipe for disaster. I have managed to do 12 out of 14 papers by myself, teaching myself with no financial background beforehand. It can be done. These books are really, really good. Like, honestly, how they explain, they're really good. And it's just a case of making the time to go through them. Literally, that is all that is required. If I had invested enough time, I would probably have not had such a hard time like how I did. And now I'm basically doing that. I'm trying to revise way beforehand. The more time you set aside, the more results you get. Last tip, and this one was given by my mom. My mom, by the way, is a lecturer in accounting and finance. So, her advice is probably what you should do. But she told me to book more than one exam when I can. So she basically says it's unlikely that you'll fail both. It's not that you can't, it's unlikely. So if you can, when you know you have the time to maybe prepare for 2 papers, book 2. Don't feel the need to be so perfect and to have done I don't know what, come rain, come sunshine, with that revision. Book those 2 exams, you'd be surprised. There are times I even booked 3 and I passed all 3. And it's that passing where maybe one you pass so well and then the other one you just make it. It counts. So if you can book more than one exam, do it. You'd be surprised. Maybe the paper you think you'd pass, you find that you've not. And then the other one that you thought you would not pass, you pass it. At least you've made progress. And last but not least, please invest in material. There is no shortcut to this. So if you study well by doing questions, buy a question guide. If you study well with maybe flip cards, buy the flip cards. Like, basically invest. This is your life. This is investing in yourself, and it will pay. Trust me, people recognize the ACCA like no one's business. Tell me, how many CEOs are chartered accountants? You'll find that very many of them are. So please, invest in yourself. And you'd be so surprised, it's not just accounting. ACCA is not just accounting. It teaches you a lot to do with strategic leadership, which is actually what I'm mainly interested in. I'm interested more in managing businesses, because that's what I hope to do one day. So invest in yourself, buy material. Like, I personally, what I do to save money, I buy secondhand. And look at this. This is a secondhand book, and look at how new it is. Why do you need to buy brand new? So I hope that's what you're looking for. I hope you find this video useful. If it's useful, give it a thumbs up. If you'd like me to cover certain other things in detail, definitely let me know. I've done other certifications as well. So if you have specific certifications you'd like me to talk about, or you even want to share your own experience teaching your own self to learn something, maybe you've learned a language by yourself, or you've learned something else by yourself, definitely engage in the comments and I will respond.